Danielle pushed open the door to her house, expecting to walk into the quiet comfort she usually found after a long day. Instead, the sound of laughter, clinking glasses, and hurried footsteps hit her first. She froze in the doorway, blinking at the sight before. Strangers moved in and out of her kitchen, arms full of trays and decorations. Her living room was filled with ribbons and flowers she hadn't put up. Her house looked like a party hall, and she hadn't been told a single word about it. At the center of it all stood her mother, commanding everyone with sharp instructions. No, not there. Put the cake table near the window. Emily must have her pictures in the best light. She didn't even glance in Danielle's direction. Danielle stepped inside, her voice catching. Mom, what's going on? Her mother finally turned, eyes sweeping over her with impatience. Oh, you're here. We're setting up for your sister's engagement dinner. Everything has to be perfect. My house. Danielle's chest tightened. Don't make it sound like a big deal, her mother snapped, waving a hand as if brushing her off. You should be grateful we chose your place. It's bigger than Emily's apartment, and honestly, at least this house will look useful for once. Danielle swallowed hard. The room felt smaller, though it was crowded with people. She could hear whispers behind her, 2 women setting down plates near the dining table. That's Danielle, right? One murmured, not bothering to lower her voice enough. Yes, the other said with a little laugh. The older sister, the one who never quite figured things out. Heat rushed to Danielle's face. She wanted to tell them this was her home, the one she had worked years to afford, but her tongue felt heavy. Her mother's voice rose again. Emily deserves a real celebration. She's the daughter who makes us proud. Not everyone gets engaged to a doctor. Danielle's throat ached. The words cut sharper because they weren't whispered, they were spoken openly, like truths everyone in the room accepted. She stood in the doorway of her own home, yet she felt like an uninvited guest, like a shadow in a place she had built with her own sweat. Emily appeared then, glowing in a new dress, smiling as people fussed over her. Their mother wrapped her in a hug, her eyes shining with pride. Danielle watched, silent, invisible. The house didn't feel like hers anymore. It felt stolen, taken over, filled with voices that erased her. And in that moment, one thought pressed heavy in her chest. Even in her own home, she didn't belong. Danielle had worked for everything she had. Nothing in her life had come easy, not even the house she was standing in. She remembered the nights she stayed late at the office, pushing through exhaustion to earn extra hours. She remembered walking home with sore feet and telling herself it would all be worth it one day. When she finally signed the papers for this house, it felt like she had carved out a small piece of safety for herself, something solid in a world that often treated her like she was invisible. Her family had leaned on her more times than she could count. When bills piled up, she helped. When her father's health wavered, she paid for treatments. When Emily needed money for college applications, Danielle stepped in quietly. She never asked for thanks. She told herself that family was family, and if she could help, she should. But in the back of her mind, she always hoped that one day her mother would notice, would finally look at her with the same pride she saved for Emily. Emily was the golden one, and everyone knew it. Growing up, Danielle watched how her mother's eyes softened whenever Emily walked into the room. Emily was praised for her beauty, for her charm, for the way people always seemed to like her. She's going to do something great one day, their mother often said. And then, almost as if to balance the air, she would look at Danielle and sigh. You need to try harder. Look at your sister. The words followed Danielle through her teenage years into adulthood. She carried them into every relationship, every job, every mirror she stood in front of. No matter what she did, it never felt enough. Her last relationship had ended in silence and distance. The man she thought she would marry told her she was steady, but not exciting. When he left, Danielle didn't beg him to stay. She just folded into herself, promising to focus on work and on building the one thing she could control, her home. But even there, her mother's voice found her. Every holiday, every visit turned into quiet criticism masked as advice. You should fix your hair like Emily. Why don't you wear brighter colors? You should think about marriage soon. You're not getting younger. Danielle smiled tightly and pretended the words slid off her skin, but they left marks always. The house became her refuge. It wasn't just walls and furniture. It was her proof that she was capable, that she wasn't the failure her mother's tone suggested. Every corner held pieces of her effort. The couch she bought after saving for months, the curtains she hung herself, the little garden she cared for on weekends. It was her place, her peace. That was why the sting of the engagement preparations cut so deep. To watch her mother take over the home without asking, to hear strangers whisper that she had nothing to show for her life, felt like erasing everything she had built. It wasn't just about decorations or parties. It was about respect, about being seen. Danielle had always believed that if she worked hard, if she gave enough, eventually her mother would see her work. But standing there, listening to the laughter that wasn't hers, she felt the truth pressing in. maybe her mother never would. Still, part of her clung to hope. She longed for love that didn't compare her to Emily, for someone to say she was enough exactly as she was. She longed for a day when her mother would look at her house and not just see space to use, but a daughter to be proud of. Her identity was tied to this home because it was the one place she thought no one could take from her. Yet here she was, surrounded by her mother's choices, her sister's celebration, and the sharp reminder that in her family's eyes, she would never measure up. Danielle moved quietly through the hallway, her steps soft against the wooden floor. She had gone upstairs to change, hoping that maybe if she blended in, she could survive the evening without drawing attention. As she passed by the guest room, she heard voices inside. Her mother's sharp and clear, Emily's softer but no less cruel. "She'll try to act important tonight," her mother said, her tone clipped. "But everyone knows Danielle has nothing to show for her life." Emily's laugh followed, light and almost careless. "I know. She just seems bitter. Like she resents me for moving forward. I wish she'd stop sulking and just accept things." Danielle froze. The words landed like blows, each one heavier than the last. She pressed her hand against the wall, her breath shallow. Bitter. Nothing to show. Was that truly how they saw her? After all the years she had carried their burdens, all the time she had been the quiet one making sure things held together, was this all she was to them? Her chest burned as she listened. Her mother's voice rose again. "Emily, don't waste time worrying about her. You are the one who matters now. Tonight is about you. Danielle should just be grateful we're even using her house. It gives her some purpose." Something inside Danielle cracked. She had always known her mother favored Emily, but hearing it spoken so clearly, with such dismissal, tore through the small scraps of hope she held on to. She wanted to burst into the room, scream, demand they take the words back. Instead, she pushed the door open slowly. Her mother and Emily looked up, startled for a moment before their faces smoothed back into calm. Danielle's voice trembled, but she forced herself to speak. "I heard what you said." Emily shifted uncomfortably, her smile flickering. "Danielle, it's not." Her mother cut in, her tone sharp. "Don't start this. Not tonight. This is your sister's engagement. Don't ruin her day with your sensitivity." Danielle's eyes stung. "You used my house without asking. You tell people lies about me. And now you stand here, in my own home, mocking me like I don't exist. How do you think that feels?" Her mother stood, her expression hard. "It feels like you're making everything about you, as usual. Emily's happiness is what matters right now. If you can't support her, then at least stay quiet." Danielle's hands shook at her sides. The urge to scream, to break something, clawed at her throat. But what crushed her most was the calm way her mother dismissed her pain, as though her feelings were inconvenient background noise. Emily looked away, not meeting her eyes, the silence between them worse than the words she had heard. Danielle turned and left before the tears could spill over. Her heart pounded, her stomach twisted. For years she had swallowed the insults, convinced herself that silence kept peace. But now she knew the truth. Silence only gave them permission to erase her. She walked back to her room, the laughter from downstairs echoing through the wall. The house no longer felt safe. Her mother's words replayed over and over. Nothing to show, bitter, grateful for purpose. Danielle sat on the edge of her bed, her fists clenched. She couldn't stay quiet anymore. Something had to change. The rest of the evening felt like walking through smoke. Danielle moved around her own house, but her body felt heavy, her steps weighed down by what she had overheard upstairs. Every time she looked at her mother, she felt the sting of those words again, and when Emily laughed with the guests, Danielle couldn't shake the image of her sister agreeing so easily that she was bitter. She tried to stay quiet, to focus on small tasks like setting down glasses or adjusting the tablecloth, but the pressure inside her kept building. Each smile from the guests felt like another mask she had to wear. Her house was full, yet she had never felt lonelier. When she passed the kitchen, she caught two aunts whispering. "I heard Danielle still hasn't found her footing in her career," one said softly. The other chuckled. "Yes, poor thing. Living in this house rent-free, while her sister is marrying a doctor. Life is just unfair, isn't it?" Danielle stopped in her tracks, her throat tightening. Rent-free? That was a lie. She had poured every drop of her savings into this house. Her mother had told people otherwise, and they believed it. The thought made her chest burn. Later, she found her father sitting quietly in a corner, watching the guests with a small smile. She walked over, desperate for some kind of comfort. "Dad," she whispered, "why does she say these things about me? Why does she make me look like I'm nothing?" He shifted uneasily, his eyes on the floor. "It's not the time, Danielle. Your sister deserves a happy evening. Don't stir trouble." Her heart sank. Even her father, the one person she hoped might understand, refused to stand with her. He wasn't cruel, but his silence hurt just as much. As the night went on, the tension only grew. Danielle caught more whispers, little side glances that cut like knives. People believed the story her mother spread, that Danielle was the struggling daughter, the one who couldn't make life work, living off the family's kindness. When she tried to step into conversations, she felt eyes slide away, as though people pitied her. She heard someone say, "She must be jealous of Emily," and the words sank into her like poison. At one point, Danielle pulled Emily aside. Her voice trembled as she asked, "Do you know what Mom has been telling people? They think I live here for free, and they think I'm useless. Why didn't you stop her?" Emily shifted, looking uncomfortable. "Danielle, it's not a big deal. People talk. Mom just wants me to shine tonight. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Her sister's words crushed her even more. It wasn't just her mother. Emily, too, was willing to let her look small as long as it kept the spotlight on her. By the time the engagement dinner started, Danielle felt like she was walking on shattered glass. Guests filled the living room with laughter and congratulations, but underneath, she could feel the judgment in the way they glanced at her. Every word her mother had spread about her hung in the air, unspoken but alive. She stood near the edge of the room, holding a glass she couldn't drink from. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest, her hands trembling. She wanted to scream, to tell them all the truth, that she had bought this house, that she had worked harder than anyone realized, that she wasn't the failure her mother painted her to be. But when she opened her mouth, nothing came. The fear of being dismissed, of being called selfish, clamped down on her voice. She swallowed it back, the silence choking her. Then she caught her mother's laugh across the room. "Yes," her mother was saying to a guest, "Danielle has always been a little lost, but we don't mind helping her out. Family is family." The guest nodded sympathetically. Danielle's whole body went cold. The words erased her in front of everyone. Years of sacrifice, long nights of work, money she poured into the very walls they were standing in. It all disappeared with her mother's easy life. Her breath came shallow, her vision blurry with tears she refused to let fall in front of them. The truth wasn't just hidden. It was twisted, replaced with a story that made her look small and dependent, the opposite of everything she had worked for. And in that moment, standing in her own living room filled with laughter that wasn't hers, Danielle felt the breaking point. Something inside her whispered that silence had cost her enough. She could either keep swallowing. The evening had reached its peak. Guests were gathered in the living room, clapping as Emily and her fiancé stood in the center, hands entwined, smiles bright. The lights were soft, the decorations perfect, and laughter filled the space like music. Danielle stood at the back, quiet, holding herself together by a thin thread. She tried to stay small, unnoticed, but her mother's voice carried easily across the room. "I must say," her mother began loudly, smiling at the crowd, "we are so proud of Emily. She's accomplished so much, and now she's marrying a wonderful man. She's truly everything a daughter should be." Her words seemed to glow in the air. Then, almost as an afterthought, her mother added with a little laugh, "Unlike her sister, who still hasn't figured out what to do with her life. But that's fine. At least Danielle has this house to offer. She may not have much else, but she can give us a roof over our heads." The room went quiet for a beat. People chuckled awkwardly, unsure if it was a joke or not. Danielle felt her stomach twist. Her mother's words landed like stones, heavy and humiliating, right there in front of everyone. Something inside Danielle snapped. The years of silence, of swallowing her pain, could not hold anymore. She set her glass down on the nearest table and stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice steady enough to cut through the room. "Enough," she said. The laughter died. All eyes turned to her. Emily's smile faltered, her fiancé looked confused, and her mother narrowed her eyes. Danielle's chest rose and fell with uneven breaths, but she didn't stop. "You stand here in my house, using my space to celebrate, and you mock me in front of everyone. You call me a failure, you tell lies about me, and I've stayed quiet for years because I thought maybe, just maybe, one day you'd be proud of me." Her voice broke on the word proud, but she kept going, louder now, her words spilling out with years of weight. "You tell people I live here rent-free, that I have nothing to show for my life. Do you want to know the truth? I bought this house. With my own money. With every late night I worked, every extra hour I stayed at the office. I built this home for myself, and when you needed help, I opened my doors. When you couldn't pay bills, I stepped in. When Emily needed money for her future, I gave it without question. And now you erase all of that like it doesn't matter." Gasps moved through the crowd. Danielle's mother's face went pale, her mouth opening but no words coming out. Emily shifted uncomfortably, her eyes darting between her sister and the guest. Danielle's voice shook, but her shoulders were straight. "I am not the failure you say I am. I may not be Emily. I may not have a ring on my finger or a picture-perfect life, but I have worked hard for everything I own. And I will not let you stand here, in my home, and humiliate me any longer." For a moment, the room was completely still. The weight of her words filled every corner. Some guests looked shocked, others guilty for believing the stories they had heard. Emily's fiancé coughed, breaking the silence, while Emily's face flushed deep red. Her mother finally found her voice, but it came out weak. Danielle, this is not the time. No, Mom, Danielle cut in, her tone firm. It's the only time. Because you've taken every chance to speak over me, to compare me, to tear me down. And I've let you. But not anymore. Her eyes shone with tears, but her stance didn't waver. For the first time, she stood tall in front of her family, not as the quiet, forgotten daughter, but as a woman demanding to be seen. The silence that followed was heavy, almost unbearable. Then, slowly, whispers spread through the crowd, guests exchanging looks, nodding quietly, some even casting disapproving glances at her mother. Emily stared at the floor, her hands twisting nervously, her glow dimmed by the weight of her sister's truth. Danielle wiped at her cheek quickly, forcing her voice to steady. From now on, I will not be erased. This house is mine. My life is mine. And I refuse to let anyone, even my own family, take that away from me. Her words hung in the air like fire. The crowd didn't know whether to clap or stay silent, but the damage was done. Danielle had said what needed to be said. For the first time in years, her voice had cut through the noise, and it could not be unheard. After Danielle's words filled the room, the party never truly recovered. Guests whispered in corners, avoiding eye contact with her, unsure of how to act. Emily forced a smile and tried to keep the celebration alive, but the glow had already dimmed. Her mother moved stiffly, her face tight with anger and shame, but she said nothing more. Danielle stayed where she was, steady and silent, refusing to shrink back into the shadows. For once, the silence didn't choke her. It gave her strength. When the evening ended and the guests trickled out, the house finally quieted. Emily approached her, her hands clasped tightly together. Danielle, she said softly, I'm sorry you felt that way. I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted tonight to go smoothly. Danielle looked at her sister carefully. The apology was there, but it felt thin, a layer of words without much weight. Emily wasn't cruel, but she was blind to the pain her silence had caused. Danielle nodded slowly. Thank you for saying that, she replied. But it's not just about tonight. It's about all the years before. And I can't pretend anymore that it doesn't matter. Emily's eyes dropped to the floor. She muttered something about being tired and slipped away. Danielle stood alone in the living room, surrounded by the decorations that had been put up without her permission. The house still smelled of flowers and food, but for the first time, she felt that it truly belonged to her again. Her words had claimed it back. Later that week, her mother called. Her tone was clipped, her words cold. You embarrassed me, Danielle. You could have kept quiet. Danielle's voice was calm, steady in a way it had never been before. No, Mom. I've kept quiet my whole life, and it only made things worse. This is my home, my life. If you want to be part of it, you'll respect me. If not, then you can stay away. The silence on the other end told her everything she needed to know. For once, Danielle wasn't shaken by it. Something had shifted inside her. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The scars from years of comparison and neglect wouldn't fade overnight. But she had taken the first step. She had spoken her truth, and that was a beginning. She booked an appointment with a therapist the next day. She wanted to finally untangle the hurt, to understand herself beyond the labels her family had pinned on her. She began thinking about her career again, making plans to move forward instead of standing still. For the first time in a long time, she considered what she wanted, not what others expected. The healing didn't come from revenge. It didn't come from making her mother admit she was wrong, or from Emily offering perfect apologies. It came from Danielle choosing herself, from deciding that her voice mattered. She realized she didn't need her family's approval to feel whole. Respect and love had to begin within her. The house, once filled with the weight of humiliation, now felt like a symbol of her strength. Every wall, every piece of furniture carried her story, not the one her mother told, but the one she had lived. Danielle promised herself that never again would she let anyone, not even her own family, take away her worth. The house was finally quiet. The flowers still stood in the corners, the chairs were out of place, and half-empty glasses rested on the tables. But the laughter, the whispers, the weight of so many eyes, they were gone. Danielle sat on the couch, her body heavy with exhaustion, yet her chest felt lighter than it had in years. She looked around at the walls she had paid for, the furniture she had chosen, the little marks of her effort everywhere. Tonight, for the first time, it truly felt like hers again. Not her mother's stage, not her sister's backdrop, hers. Her heart still ached. The words she had heard, the years of comparison, the look on her mother's face, all of it lingered like bruises under her skin. But beneath the hurt was something new, something steady. She had spoken. She had stood tall. And no one could take that moment from her. She leaned back, closing her eyes. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was peaceful, like a promise. She thought about all the nights she had swallowed her pain, all the times she had let herself be erased. Those days were over. Never again, she whispered into the quiet. The words were small, but they carried weight. They were a vow to herself, a reminder that healing didn't start with her mother's approval or Emily's apology. It started here, with her voice, with her choice to claim her own life. Danielle opened her eyes and smiled faintly. Tomorrow there would be more work to do, more healing, more rebuilding, more steps forward. But tonight, sitting alone in her living room, she finally felt free. Hey besties, thanks for watching till the end. Imagine opening your home for your sister's engagement, only to be mocked by your own mom and treated like a stranger. Danielle's pain turned into strength the moment she spoke her truth. Sometimes the deepest wounds push us to rise higher. If you love this story, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe for more. See you in the next one. Bye!